The fall of Howard Stern is now officially complete. The man who made his career as being the outsider, the rebel, the guy who would say anything, do anything, and just ruffle all the feathers along the way, sat down with the most incompetent president of all time in order to give him this glazing interview. It is so damn sad. I've heard a couple of clips of it, okay? One clip, which I'll link out to you guys, where he just stutters and stammers his way through some of the most vacuous praise he can possibly muster for old Joe Biden. I mean, like Robin, Joe, he's done great work for, people have health care insurance. Oh, it's so great, Robin, and marijuana reforms, and I love you, Joe. Will you please go to the prom with me? Because I'm just so lonely in my basement. Boo, boo. Joe's apparently in the past couple of days been making the rounds, doing several podcasts, and of course Stern's radio show. The shows that he's doing, all with Hollywood people, okay? Like, I didn't know Jason Bateman had a podcast. I'm sure nobody else does, but Biden turned up to that. That was like when Barack Obama did the Mark Maron WTF podcast, but that one made a little bit more sense because Mark Maron at the time had the biggest podcast. And then after, he did that glazing interview and kind of fell off precipitously after that. But this Stern interview with Biden is not being received well. I don't know, maybe his diehards that are out there, the soccer moms that still think that it's edgy to listen to Stern with all of his blue-pilled talking points. Maybe it'll resonate with them, but I've seen nothing but criticism, nothing but mocking in relation to this embarrassing interview. President Joe Biden appeared on a live radio broadcast with interviewer Howard Stern on Friday, telling family stories. Yeah, about how I was with my dad at the Rodney Square and I see two guys kissing and we turned the fire hoses on. No, wait, it's just about love, I think. I got my stories mixed up. And then saying his stutter prepared him for the hard knocks of life. Yeah, his stutter that was invented in 2018. Like, come on, man. Biden said the stutter that he has had since childhood was never something he had to rely upon. He just needed it in order to cover up for the fact that this dude has more breaks in his head than a 50-year-old irrigation system. It's atrocious, man. This is a guy who's had 2 brain aneurysms, for Christ's sakes. Man who doesn't even sound the exact same way that he did 6 months ago. He's got to debate Trump in a couple months' time, which is kind of crazy to think about. I guess no, it'd be more like 5 months. Okay, so about in a half year's time. I don't even know what's going to be left because he sounds like death right now. Is he actually going to turn into a pillar of salt on stage? Because that's kind of where he's going. Like, he's really fallen off, guys. The Stern interview came as Biden was in New York for political events. Of course, it was heavy on biographical details as the Democrat attempts to make himself more approachable to voters. Yeah, by going to the most ivory tower interviewer that's out there right now. A guy who is literally hiding from the common cold not but a couple of weeks ago, for God's sakes, who is championing the idea that, Robin, now I can finally go out. I went out, but then I got sick right away. It was so crazy what happened. Beth wanted me to go out, but I didn't want to. I still don't feel safe going outside, Robin. It's so terrible what happened. He thinks that he's more approachable by going on with actors and shock jocks that have fallen off more than Greg Opie Hughes. Like, what are we doing? Biden also said his father, showed him tough love, telling him a story about how he used to beat him with a sack of oranges, so it showed him who's boss, but then it also didn't leave any bruising. Telling a story about getting knocked out while playing football when he was in the 4th grade. Yeah, he still hasn't recovered since. My dad walked out with us and said, Joey, get up. You gotta just get up. You gotta get up. Thanks. That's a great story. Father was Rocky Balboa. He was paraphrasing that speech. Yeah, okay, fantastic. But if that's the most glowing praise that stupid Reuters can give about this situation, let's take a look at one of the hometown papers for Stern. Stern's fawning Biden interview is the final nail in the coffin for the radio host's edgy reputation. Well, yeah, exactly. Stern has been a system sycophant for years at this point in time, probably shedding Artie Lang's 300-pound heroin-riddled corpse. It was probably final moment in time when, just the last hangers-on were like, it's probably not the same Stern that we used to like from back in the cut. But this right here, yeah, it's it's done, guys. It's Jover. This is Biden. What if I told you the safest place for struggling presidential incumbent Joe Biden, a man with historically low approval ratings, a son fighting federal charges of border crisis in a diminished capacity, to know where he is at most times, was seated across from Howard Stern, the same Stern who, seemingly undeterred by status, beauty, or fame, made a career of ruthlessly abstracting racy revelations from people usually not inclined to give them. Well, I think that, you know, knowing a lot of Stern's past, okay, and then also knowing what Joe Biden likes to talk about, at least when he was a senator, you know, they do in fact have a lot in common. On Friday, the once almighty king of all media proved he is now simply a left-wing court jester, a toothless political shill. I'm nervous. I really am starstruck. Stern told Biden, whose biggest accomplishment of late has been evading journalists. Oh yeah, evading journalists and not falling down. I guess those new platform shoes are really working out well for him. The shock jock turned sycophant kicked off his hour-long chant with a dubious list of Biden's greatest hits, standing up to Putin, something about insurance rates, low employment, and being a good father to his family and his country. That's that clip that I'll link out to you guys if you want to listen to the 1 minute of it. Like, it's crazy the lengths to which he's just reaching. Yeah, absolute reach, man. The fact that he sat down with Stern for an hour and didn't fall asleep. I guess Stern's still on first thing in the morning, so that's probably when Joe's the most alert, you know, between the hardworking hours of 7 and 8 o'clock a.m. Nothing about any issues dogging his campaign. No talk about the border, migrant crisis, not a word about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Yeah, because Stern, I guess he would kind of find himself in a weird situation when it comes to that, because he'll always rely on pulling the old anti-Semitism card whenever things get too strenuous for him, but then, you know, capitulating to the leftist agenda that's over there. He's got to stand with the Free Palestine crew, you know, just the jokers and jesters that are over there instead of the people that are really, you know, argumentatively sound on the issue. So yeah, that's just another issue that Stern has to navigate, but he doesn't have to because, well, he's just a hack. Or yes, or inflation issues in general. Nary a peep about his son's legal or addiction troubles. Oh yeah. He said he was a good father. Instead, Stern offered listeners a soggy buffet of warmed-up Biden leftovers, tales of love, tragic losses, and the president's daring exploits as a pool lifeguard. Oh my God, did they talk about corn pop? That's great. Now I got to go back and listen to this. You're the dear kind of leader I love, because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office. Boo! Really? Because what's actually better? What's better under Biden? Thank Biden for providing a calming influence, an organized administration post-COVID, getting the vaccine out. Oh yeah, I remember what the world was like at that point. Okay. An organized administration post-COVID. Well, that's interesting. Because what structure did Biden follow to the letter of? They took things over. Getting the vaccine. Oh, okay, cool. Even as highly contentious as that is, who's the one who actually got the vaccine out? Interesting. Admittedly, it was weird for Stern, who entered a self-imposed exile in his $20 million Southampton home, guarded by a moat of germophobia when the pandemic struck. Exactly. While the rest of us actually went on with our lives, he emerged 2 years later for a dinner with Jennifer Aniston, Jimmy Kimmel, and John Hamm. Oh, Jennifer Aniston. Isn't that the one that he said had opining about, this is back in the good old days, opining about why she was so single and said something about a rancid. I can't quite remember what the full line was, but now they're good friends, and he probably doesn't bring that up. Oh, that was just jokes, Jen. Though I'm sure you're a great lady, and I'm sure nothing stinks at all. Ooh. It was grotesque and masturbatory, even for Stern, who in recent years has undergone a rebirth thanks to therapy. Yes, he's coped to being woke, and in 2019 embarked on an apology tour. But yeah, man, that used to be 1993. That was when he basically shut down New York City for signing of private parts, his book, and then I've seen the movie a couple of times. I think it's hilarious. It's not at all historically accurate, especially with the Don Imus stuff, who he used to critique as being a political stooge, who finally got the last laugh on that one. But Stern ain't Stern anymore. I know that that's a tired rejoinder just as much as his simping for the left, but 90s Howie couldn't be any less like 2000s Howie. And 2010s Howie looks like Johnny Rotten compared to the 2020s Howard Stern. Sad. It's kind of sad that the whole shock jock genre completely and totally imploded on themselves. But they were kind of the precursor to all that blood sport stuff, and we've seen how quickly that all dissolved, and well, it's just the way of the world, right? Grifts come and grifts go, but the true sellouts remain forever. I think he still has a couple years left on his brand new Sirius XM contract, and I hope he does stick around at least for a few more months so that we can get the gigantic spurg out in November when his good buddy Joe it's absolutely blown out. But hey, if Howie's looking for a co-host, one that can at least stay awake longer than Artie Lang, Joe will be looking for work here in about 6 months' time. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.